Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Garage Gameday Sports Podcast. My name is Louie. I am your host. Busy podcast today. Got a few things to talk about. I want to talk the NFL schedule release. We were getting games that were trickling in the last couple of days, but the full-blown schedule for the 2023-2024 NFL schedule out. I want to talk my top 10 games to watch as well as some winners and losers from the early slate of the schedule. I want to preview and offer predictions for the XFL Championship Game. The DC Defenders and the Arlington Renegades clash at the Alamodome tomorrow night in San Antonio for the inaugural XFL Championship. And also I want to talk the NBA playoffs. The Denver Nuggets, the first team through to the conference finals, and also what the Phoenix Suns have to do to ensure KD and Book lead the Suns back to the playoffs next season. But before we get started, smash that subscribe button, smash that like button. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. Any and all comments and feedback are welcome. Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, you know what to do. So give us a follow. Let us know what you think of the show. I want to start with the NFL first. We've got 10 games to watch here. They're in chronological order. The schedule came out yesterday, and one that caught my eye right away. Kudos to the NFL for doing this, by the way. The Lions at the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs beginning their title defense from their Super Bowl win last year. They get the Detroit Lions, the upstart Lions, led by Coach Dan Campbell. We saw what the Lions were able to do under the bright lights of Lambeau Field last year. They knocked off the Packers in the last week of the season, keeping Green Bay out of the playoffs. Green Bay still had the 7th seed to play for. The Lions season had ended just a few hours before, and they were not afraid. They took it to Rodgers. They eliminated the Packers. They ended the season on a high note, and then we saw what they did in the draft, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, shipping DeAndre Swift to the Eagles. They added Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, a couple of playmakers to that offense. You still got Amon St. Brown. You saw what they did in the secondary, adding some pieces. So I do like what the Lions have done, and I think the NFL is feeling the same way, putting them in this high-profile matchup against the defending Super Bowl champs. So I like to see the Lions and the Chiefs here in Week 1. It should be a heck of a game. The Arrowhead's going to be rocking. And I want to see what the Lions do under this sort of pressure. Week 5, we jump to Week 5, my Dallas Cowboys. This game was announced a little before the entire schedule was released. This was the first game announced for the Cowboys. They travel to California to take on the 49ers, West Coast trip. A rematch, of course, of the NFC divisional game, won 19-12 by the 49ers. We still, of course, don't know the status of Brock Purdy. They say he'll be available, at the beginning of the season. But we don't know with the Brock Purdy, Trey Lance situation. That's going to be kind of fluid. So we're not really going to know until the season gets started what the quarterback situation is going to be in San Fran. And then, of course, the Cowboys are going to be in win-now mode. The Cowboys, my Cowboys, when I say we, I'm referring to Cowboys, they're going to have some tough sledding. They're going to start at the Giants. They've got the Jets in Week 2, at the Chargers the week after this 49er game. So, worst case scenario, doomsday scenario, you could be looking at a 2-4 record for the Cowboys if things don't click and the offense doesn't click and there's injuries and that sort of thing. I'm hoping that won't be the case, but there's some tough games in the middle of that, right in the middle of in the beginning of the season, and with the 49ers obviously being one of them. So I hope the Cowboys get off to a good start. We'll get to see that offensive line health-wise, what they're going to look like. Tyron Smith, if he can stay healthy, if Tyler Smith can improve even more from that rookie campaign. And then we can see the wide receiver and tight end production with Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson, Peyton Hendershot, kind of navigating the tight ends, And with Tony Pollard, and then you're adding Deuce Vaughn into the mix now with Pollard being the number 1 back. So we get to see the new flavor and the new offense for the Cowboys on full display against San Fran. And then keeping with the Cowboys theme, I want to talk Week 9. The Cowboys travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. 3:25 kick. That's November 5th, Week 9 on Fox. The road trek to Philly, the 2 favorites in the NFC East. We know of the curse. We know of the NFC East curse. We have not had a repeat champ in, about 20 years or so? Something like that. With the Eagles obviously hoping to buck that trend this year. But I think Dallas really needs a split with Philly. Whether you get the one in Philly or you get the one at home. I think you realistically need a split if you want to have a shot at the division. Because the Eagles, they're going to have a tough division. No doubt about it. But with Jalen Hurts coming along the way he did, that offense, and then they addressed the defense as well. They're going to be a tough out and hard to beat, hard to catch in the division. So if you're the Cowboys, a split is almost a necessity if you want to catch them in the division. And then, of course, the Cowboys needing to stockpile wins because if you've checked out the schedule, I have, the schedule tightens up. Weeks 14 through 17, you've got some tough sledding for the Cowboys. You've got the Bills late in the season, the Dolphins late in the season, among other games. So you definitely want to stockpile wins as you can because of that. As that schedule gets tougher, you want to have that cushion, in the division or in the wild card races. So sticking with Week 9, Dolphins at the Chiefs. This is an 8:30 kick on the NFL Network. This is the first of 2 games in Frankfurt in Germany. The Dolphins and Chiefs. Tyreek Hill gets a crack at his old team, not in Arrowhead, but in Germany, taking on the Chiefs. Of course, the health of Tua Tagovailoa would be key. The Dolphins, we saw, were a completely different team when Tua was on the sidelines. We saw the injuries and concussions he had going on. So I really want to see the Dolphins at full strength, and I hope they're able to do that, and I think they can challenge the Chiefs in the AFC among other teams, the Bills, the Bengals, if they stay healthy. And that's always the key with every team. But especially with a quarterback the caliber of Tua and the injury concerns that he's had, they look completely different without him. But I hope we see a Dolphins-Chiefs barn burner in Germany. And these games overseas, just to switch gears a little bit for a second. These games, all 5 of these games, I talked about it in our last pod, all 5 of these have different appeals, different storylines, good teams. There's no real snoozer of any of these games. They're really trying to plant their foot and plant their flag in London and in Germany and hopefully in other places, moving forward. I know Mexico's kind of out of the question with Estadio Azteca undergoing renovations. So you kind of hold off going back to Mexico for a bit. But you definitely want to plant your flag in these different locations, and you want to put your best foot forward. You want to put the best product you can. So kudos to putting the Dolphins and Chiefs, a marquee matchup out there in Germany for fans to gravitate toward. And then also the Jaguars playing back-to-back games in London. You're trying to establish Jacksonville as kind of the de facto home team over there in London across the pond. So kudos to the NFL for doing that. Going back to the schedule, Week 9, Bills at Bengals. It's the Sunday night game, 7:20 kick on NBC, a rematch of 2 games. Remember the first game we had that was canceled because of the untimely Damar Hamlin injury. Glad he's doing okay. He seems to be all systems go for this year. Super pumped about that. Just awesome for Hamlin, his family, and the Bills organization. So really happy to see that. And then, of course, the Bengals toppled the Bills in the playoffs in the AFC Divisional before losing to the Super Bowl champ Chiefs. This game could very well be for the number 2 seed in the AFC, looking up toward the Chiefs, unless the Chiefs, of course, have a Super Bowl hangover, which is entirely possible. But the Bills and Bengals would be shuffling for AFC supremacy and also within their division. Remember, the Bills have the Dolphins to contend with. You can never really count out Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And now, of course, the added element with the Jets and, of course, Aaron Rodgers in addition to that young stacked core he's got in the Big Apple. And then the Bengals, which you've got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens with some pieces they added in the offseason. And then Cleveland, the Browns, we don't know exactly what they'll be. And then Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, if they can progress or regress. So very important for both teams in both divisions. Then Week 11, we switched Monday Night Football. Eagles at the Chiefs, a Super Bowl rematch. The rematch of the 38-35 win by the Chiefs. Can't wait to see this. 2 high-powered offenses, 2 excellent coaches. I can't wait to see this one. Just going to have plenty of offensive weapons. There's not really a whole lot to talk about this because we saw how these 2 teams delivered in the Super Bowl. So Week 11, circle your calendars. You're definitely going to want to watch that one. That's on Monday Night Football. Eagles at the Chiefs. Dolphins at Jets the following week. Week 12, the first ever NFL Black Friday game. We've still got our traditional Thanksgiving triple header. Packers, Lions, Commanders, Cowboys, 49ers, Seahawks, I believe, is the third one. But this one, Black Friday, it's in its own window. Probably share some with college football. I haven't looked that far ahead of the college schedule, but there's typically games on Friday and Saturday, so it will have to share some of the love. But as far as the NFL, it's the only act in town. Dolphins at the Jets, Tua against Rodgers, another key AFC East matchup. That's a kind of a recurring theme here with all these AFC East matchups. A lot of them are going to turn into big games. and very important games. You're going to see both teams trying to catch the Bills in the AFC East, and then even for the wild card, because you're going to have 3 teams in the AFC East, maybe 4 with the Patriots. Who knows? You can't count out Belichick and Mac Jones. But you'll have at least 3 teams competing for that coveted AFC East division title and first round home playoff game. The 2 teams that don't win would have to start the playoffs, of course, on the road, being a 5, 6, or 7 seed, however it falls. So it's very important, these teams jockeying for position, trying to get that division title and secure that home first round playoff game. So that one, a key one on Black Friday. 49ers Eagles, week 13. A rematch of the NFC Championship game. We saw the Eagles dismantle the 49ers. They were an outmanned, outgunned squad. They had the Brock Purdy injury. They had several injuries across both sides of the ball, and Philly took full advantage, a 31-7 blowout, and Philly was able to kind of sleepwalk their way into the Super Bowl. I look for that, hopefully not be the case this time. The 49ers going to want revenge. I just really look forward to that game. That's week 13, 49ers at Eagles. Then last 2 on the schedule. Cowboys at the Bills. I had touched up on this earlier. Cowboys at the Bills, week 15. 3:25 kick on Fox. This is on December 17th, week 15. Oh, by the way, if you've checked out the Cowboys schedule, a ton of 3:25 kicks. I think if I counted right, but I hope I do. I'm an accountant by trade. The Cowboys only have 2 12 o'clock games right now. 2 12 o'clock kickoffs right now. The rest of them are either 3:25, a Sunday night game, a Monday night game, a Thursday night game, the Thanksgiving game, or that sort. So 3:25 Cowboys at Bills, both in position for their divisions. They're going to be close races in both the AFC and NFC East, so I can't wait to see that. And I'm always pumped to see my Cowboys play a cold December game, away from the confines of Jerry World, away from the warmth and air condition and 72 degrees, closed roof. They're out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of nature against Buffalo. So I'd love to see that. And then week 17, New Year's Eve, Bengals at the Chiefs, rematch of the AFC Championship game. 3:25 kick on CBS. New Year's Eve, the NFL holding it down on New Year's Eve because it falls, of course, on Sunday. College football and the college football playoff those 2 games will be played New Year's Day on Monday. You'll get 3 games with the 2 semifinals New Year's Day, so don't worry, no one's stepping on anybody's toes between the NFL and college football. We play nice around here. So college will take the stage on Monday. NFL still keeps their New Year's Eve slate. So Bengals Chiefs, huge game. Joey B, Patrick Mahomes, the usual suspects. So can't wait for that one. So I want to talk early winners and losers about the schedule release. A couple of teams I found were winners. A couple of teams not so much, depending on how the schedule fell and that sort of thing. I want to talk about the Jets first, of course. We know Aaron Rodgers in New York, in the Big Apple. All eyes on Rodgers. They're getting primetime games. They've got 5 primetime games. They kick off right off the bat. Week 2, Monday Night Football game. They host the Bills, and then, of course, the Black Friday game against the Dolphins. So 2 high-profile AFC East matchups for Rodgers and company. And for the first 9 weeks, they only have 2 true road games. They play the Giants. They play the Giants in New York, which is home to both of them, so it doesn't really count. So the Jets not having to do a whole lot of travel early in the season, so they're definitely going to want to try and stockpile wins early, keep Rodgers upright, hope he and that young offense gel and build chemistry, and maybe they can rack up some W's before the schedule tightens up down the road. And it would put them in a position to really pick up wins fast in that competitive AFC East and in the competitive AFC as a whole. Because, if you just look up and down the AFC, look at the quarterbacks. Look at the teams and look at the quarterbacks. Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Tua, Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, if I already said his name, I don't even remember. So many quarterbacks, so many talented teams. You've just got to take every possible win and every possible time. So the Jets, I look for them to start out aggressive and try and stockpile some wins before that schedule gets harder down the road. Jaguars, another winner of mine. Pretty much have a functional home field advantage when it comes to the 2 games in London. They play week 4 and week 5 in London. They're the designated home team week 4 against the Falcons. Week 5, they are the road team playing the Bills, which take a home game away from the Bills. But Jacksonville will already be there. They're going to stay more than likely the 2 weeks in London, so they're already going to be acclimated to the time change. They're going to get used to the jet lag, all that sort of thing. While the Bills are going to be coming in, maybe they're a little fatigued, the flight, all that sort of thing. It's going to throw them off rhythm. Athletes, football players, creatures of habit. It's going to throw them a little bit off their game, while the Jaguars will be, rested and would be there a whole week. So that plays into the Jacksonville Jaguars. It plays into their advantage, I think. And then, of course, turning that Bills neutral game into an away game of sorts. So taking a game away from Buffalo that they could eventually need down the road. Then you play Buffalo in London. So by playing them over there, you don't have to play them in Orchard Park in the cold confines of Buffalo like my Cowboys are going to have to. Then you also play the Steelers in October. The weather won't be quite as cold yet. So they could be avoiding a lot of cold weather. If you don't remember, Jacksonville's in Florida. So they may be avoiding a lot of cold weather stadiums, a lot of road tests in cold weather environments. So that has to play into the Jaguars' hands, especially with a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence who likes to sling it around a lot. Whereas if you had a lot of cold weather, snow, wind, that sort of thing, rain, it's going to diminish your passing attack. So the Jaguars are going to hope to avoid all that cold weather and keep playing in favorable conditions. Early losers for me, we're going to look at the other side of the Big Apple. It's got to be the Giants. Top 5 in strength of schedule of their opponents. They have a tough schedule this year. Of course, it dates back to last year, so you use the records based on last year, which isn't always a perfect indicator, but to each his own. 6 of their first 10 games on the road. This is some tough sledding for the Giants right off the bat. You got both games against the Cowboys, the first 10 games. You have the home game in the Meadowlands and then the road game at Jerry World. At the 49ers, that's cross country. At the Dolphins, from up here to way down there. At Buffalo, and then home against Rodgers and the Jets. So that's some tough eating there for the Giants. So I don't know. They might be in a position where they're looking way up at the standings early on, and they're going to have to do some major climbing to get out of that hole. They're going to need to start strong in the NFC East, or that division's just going to fall by the wayside, and they're going to have to scramble for a wild card. So the Giants, for me, got to be a loser right now. The Patriots, brutal 4-game schedule for the Patriots. They start with the Eagles, home to the Dolphins, then at the Jets, at the Cowboys, weeks 3 and 4. And then their schedule gets bookended by them having to close against the Chiefs, going to Buffalo against the Bills, and then hosting the Jets. So tough beginning, tough ending to the season for the Patriots. 1 and 3, or maybe even 0 and 4 could be difficult for the Patriots to navigate through at the beginning of the year. And then you got to stockpile wins in the middle, or else you're sunk. Or else Belichick and the Patriots will be out of the playoffs for the second year in a row. So those are my winners and losers. Should be an awesome NFL schedule. I can't wait. Some awesome social media trolling by the social media departments of some teams. If you get a chance to check out some of the videos, I saw some of them. The Titans, the Bears, the Chargers, some of my early winners for those videos. Check those out on the socials. The schedule releases, they're pretty awesome. So I want to switch gears to the XFL Championship Game now. Tomorrow night, San Antonio, the Alamo City, the Alamo Dome, 7 o'clock. It's on ABC and ESPN+. 7 p.m. coverage starts. It's the DC Defenders taking on the Arlington Renegades. The 10-1 Defenders, champions of the North Division, taking on the 5-6 Renegades, champions of the South Division. Arlington limping into this game somewhat. 2-4 in their last 6 games, but they did avenge their two of their losses to the Roughnecks. They roughed up the Roughnecks in the semifinal, 26-11. They beat Houston by 15 to punch their ticket to the XFL Championship Game. And then ever since Luis Perez took over as their quarterback, they acquired him in a trade from Vegas. He's really helped turn the Renegades around. They've been more aggressive on offense. They've able to open up the offense and the running game by extension. He started his first game week 9, which ironically was the game they played against the Defenders. So they've seen each other once before, but Perez has really provided some stability at that quarterback position and helped the run game thrive. And then DC riding a 4-game win streak. They started out the year 6-0, lost to the Guardians of all teams, of course, the worst team in the league. The Orlando Guardians squeaked by the Defenders by 1 point, 1 single point. And then the Defenders reeled off 4 wins after that, including deadlocking the Sea Dragons for the first half of the North Division Championship before pulling away from Seattle and drowning the Dragons 37-21 behind the arm of Jordan Ta'amu and the run game of Abram Smith. So the Defenders, very high-powered offense, force to be reckoned with, 10-1, best record in the league. And then also the only meeting of the season between these two, as I touched up on, came in Week 9. It was a 28-26 overtime win by the Defenders. Squeaked it out. They jumped out 26-9. They were very aggressive and had the Renegades against the ropes. And props to Arlington for coming back. Bettis and those guys made it a game. They came back, pushed it to overtime before DC won it on a 2-point conversion. So these two teams played each other extremely close. Oh, for the lines, by the way, because I didn't talk about this at the beginning. Vegas has DC a 6-point favorite. So it's DC -6. Over-under as of this morning was set at 48 points. So for those of you who like to throw a little money around, have a little fun with Vegas, those are your lines. DC -6, over-under 48. As far as the XFL teams, you have 7 on the all XFL team from DC. Only 1 for the Renegades. Defensive lineman Devontae Lambert, the only one for the Renegades. You have Ta'amu, quarterback. Abram Smith, running back. Lucky Jackson, wide receiver. Liam Fornadell, offensive line. David Bellamy on your defensive line. Defensive back Michael Joseph. Daniel Whelan, your punter. And then also the XFL Coach of the Year in Reggie Barlow for the Defenders. Heck of a job Coach Barlow's done with the Defenders, by the way. No coaching experience. And what he's able to do with his team has just been nothing short of remarkable. And when you factor in, too, you're going to have youth versus experience matchup, something I'm also looking forward to in this game. You've got Reggie Barlow, the job he's done with the Defenders, outstanding. And you got Bob Stoops, who's been there, done that, won national titles in college. Very established, accomplished coach in the college ranks, coaching the Renegades. So we'll see the kind of chess match these two coaches put on, and I'm curious to see the adjustments they make in this game. So I think it's going to be a heck of a game. It's going to be a heck of a game. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game because you see Ta'amu, the passing attack they've been able to have with the Defenders, first in the league in yards per attempt, total touchdowns, 33 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions only across the 11 games they've had. They take care of the ball extremely well, and they've averaged just under 30 points per game. They've only gone under 28 twice, and those were the first 2 weeks of the season. They haven't scored less than 28 since week 2. So props to the Defenders. And then, of course, 140 yards they average on the ground with Abram Smith. He accounts for over half of those. And then you have Ta'amu that can run, De'Aaron King who can run, who, if you remember him from the University of Houston and also from Miami, he was their quarterback. So he's their backup quarterback / kind of de facto third running back. So the Defenders just with an embarrassment of riches right now. I look for a lot of points in this game. I think Bettis can keep the Renegades in this, but I just like the Defenders right now. Too many points, and I think they've been the best team all year, and it would be foolish to stray away from that now. So I'm going to go with the Defenders winning the XFL Championship, the inaugural XFL Championship, by a score of 34-22. So if you're keeping score at home, that would mean DC would cover the 6 points, and the over-under would clear the 48. So give me DC giving 6 and the over 48. 34-22 Defenders over the Renegades. So it should be an awesome game at the Alamo Dome. Wish I was there. Got other plans this weekend, so it should be an awesome game to watch on TV. So if you're checking it out, please give it a tune. Support the XFL. I'll be doing the same. I want to talk the NBA real quick. The Denver Nuggets have been the first team to punch their ticket to the conference finals. They did that with an emphatic 125-100 win over the Phoenix Suns last night in Phoenix. Jokic, Murray, the usual cast, all been balling this playoff run. They're all healthy now. You know, you had Jokic, bit of a downer last year, and then you had Bubble Murray who took over, but then, you had injuries. So things are finally coming along for the Denver Nuggets. So the Nuggets will await the winner of the Lakers-Warriors series. Lakers with a 3-2 advantage, Game 6 tonight. Game 7, if needed, would be Sunday. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, regardless of who wins the Lakers-Warriors series. Game 1 will be in Denver Tuesday night. The East. we still don't know the two teams from there, but whoever wins the Celtics 76er series will host games 1 and 2 of the East Finals. That series starts Wednesday. Celtics Sixers tied at 3. Game 7 is on Sunday. Heat Knicks. Heat lead the series 3-2. Game 6 is tonight, Friday, with a Game 7 if necessary on Monday, and then Game 1 of the East Finals, the Boston Philly winner would host on Wednesday. But the Nuggets did a remarkable job of just shutting down Phoenix and not giving them a chance yesterday. You know, we saw Chris Paul struggle with a groin injury. He missed the last 4 games of this series. DeAndre Ayton missed last night and pretty much missed the whole series because he was largely a no-show for this series. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker had to shoulder entirely too much for Phoenix to try and overcome, you know, all this offensive deficiency they had, because Durant and Book had to combine for 80 points nightly, and it still wasn't enough to beat Denver. So if you're Phoenix, you have to surround yourself with a better cast and a better bench, because Denver outplayed them, first of all. Then they had more contributions on the bench, and their supporting cast, their rotation, you know, adjustments, coaching. Denver just beat them all across the board. And Phoenix, when push came to shove, just gave up. First quarter, Denver dropped 40 on them, and Phoenix said, okay, I think we're done here. I think we're done. And the Nuggets laid 81 on them by halftime, and Phoenix was already booking travel plans. They were already booking vacation plans because they were already out of it. So if you're Phoenix, you definitely have to address helping out Durant and Booker, and to an extension DeAndre Ayton, depending what you want to do with him. If you're going to keep him, help build around him if he's going to be one of your centerpieces. And also, what are you going to do with Chris Paul? He's no spring chicken. He's been around quite some time. You have to build a contingency plan, and you have to build depth around these stars, or it's not going to work. And you hedged your future for nothing because you gave up a ton of picks and a ton of players and a ton of depth to Brooklyn to make this trade happen. It's only the first year, and Durant and Booker and everybody only played, 10, 15, 18 games together. So you can't call it a colossal failure yet. But the window will be shortly and quickly closing. So if you're the Suns, you definitely need to make adjustments this offseason. And props to the Denver Nuggets for getting the job done. They go to the conference finals, and we'll see what they can do against either the Lakers or Warriors. So I'm very intrigued to see what Joker, Murray, and the rest of those guys can do in the conference finals and maybe in the NBA finals. Who knows? Michael Malone's done a heck of a coaching job with those guys. So that's going to wrap up this episode. It was a busy one. NFL, XFL, NBA. There's still hockey going on. Plenty of baseball this weekend. College baseball. A little something for everybody. So feel free to subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel. Pop us in the car. Give us a listen. Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. We love sports. We love hearing feedback. We love hearing from you guys. So anything you want to see us talk about in future episodes, we're more than welcome to suggestions. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, and we'll try to make it happen. So this is Louie signing off. We'll see you guys next time. Have an awesome weekend.